Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Darcey Hall with Veterans in Politics. Today we have Randell Hynes, Democratic challenger for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. And before we get to Mr. Hynes, I wanted to give a moment of silence to the 19 children and 2 adults, I believe it was, that passed away at the elementary school in Texas. Okay. Darcey, do you have any rants you'd like to share with us? Rants.
Rants?
Yeah, anything you want to get off your chest? Somebody bothering you? Somebody stole your cookie?
In full transparency, in looking at donations and stuff, seeing that Southwest Gas Corporation has donated to candidates.
Really?
Yes.
By how much and to who?
I don't recall the amount, but it was an amount significant enough for me to be pissed off as a local resident that has to have Southwest Gas.
Who did
And
they
I don't
donate
remember. I don't remember which candidate it was.
It just pissed you off.
It did.
Oh.
So that's my current rant.
Okay. All right.
I respect that businesses may donate to, but if it's a public that people have to donate or have to have their services, I don't see that should be.
They should be lowering your gas rate instead of giving the money out to candidates you don't like.
Exactly. Even if I like the candidate, I still don't feel that a public utility should be donating to candidates.
So, Mr. Hynes,
yes, sir.
Could you tell us about yourself, please?
Well, I'm a fifth generation immigrant. From Ireland. My great great grandfather came here in 1898, and
so you support that UFC champion? What's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
McGuire?
Yeah, I don't. Even though
it's one of your people.
Even though I'm aware that I have Irish roots, I don't know. I guess there's just not that connection there.
But you get along with English people, right?
Oh, absolutely. I get along with everybody, and you know that. I mean, I'm here. I've been in the room with Andrew Yang. I go talk to everybody. I reach out to everybody.
Yes.
So I'm just a man that says that he can go to Washington D.C., be in the Beltway, and bring people to the middle. I got to be able to be in a room like this or in any room,
right,
and talk to folks and make sense.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I grew up in Indianapolis.
Okay.
I was the first in my family, actually anybody in my family all the way back to the time that we came here, the Hyneses came here, that graduated from high school. So I had focus. I was a cross country runner. I just decided that the way to do it was just to get myself out the door every day at 6 o'clock, and that's what I did. Went out there. I wasn't
disciplined then.
Yeah, I wasn't the fastest runner, but I was the guy out there that was staying in shape and leading from the middle,
right,
which is kind of like what I'm thinking of doing right now, because I had guys that were faster than me and that were finishing ahead of me every time on my team. But I kept the team together, and we did really well. We ended up going to state, which first time that any cross country team had gone to state for our high school. It's a little high school, 1,500 people. So. Yeah, so that actually kind of led into the high school where we were at was right by the airport. And I always see the planes going in and out. And I'm thinking, man, I've never been out of the state, but I like to do something here that's going to get me on one of those planes and take me somewhere.
Right.
And the one thing that I thought would have basically changed the direction of my life if I had followed through with it was the fact that I visited West Point, and I went there and I saw how great things were there, and I actually got accepted on a contingent that I go to another freshman school in New Jersey to get my grades up first. So all I had to do was in July 1979 was get on an airplane and go there. And I was working at a golf course at the time, and instead of going and getting on the plane, I got on the plane and went to work. So I think that would have set me off on a whole different path.
Okay.
But I really like the fact that I the next month I went to Butler University. I got on the track and ran cross country there. was a mediocre student, used my high school study skills to try to make it through my freshman year in college, and they didn't work. And I could, in high school, I could basically coast and get B's, and that those same study habits didn't work very well in college. So
let's get out of high school.
Yeah. So we moved on. Yeah, because we only got a little bit of time. So that put me in a path where I finished college. It's too expensive to go back. My siblings were coming to college. They were graduating from high school, so I tried to figure something else out to do, and ended up after series of odd jobs, ended up going in the Army. My brother had already joined the Army, gotten out, and had his bachelor's degree in 3 years.
Wow!
And I had 1 year of college. So
you were jealous, huh?
I wasn't, but he is my hero. That man is my hero. 3 years of college, got his BA, learned to speak Arabic, learned to speak Farsi, French.
Wow!
Went on to get his master's degree, studies his doctorate, and now he's a lawyer in Illinois.
What happened to you?
Well, I was.
Is your parents sad right now?
I wanted to at age 25. I decided I was going to join the Army. I'm going to do what my brother did, so I followed his footsteps.
Okay.
And I joined the Army Reserve, and went to basic training and loved it. Just absolutely loved it. It fit me like a glove.
Right.
I went in there. They handed me this armband that had sergeant stripes on it. And I was a 25-year-old, basically just I was the platoon leader for the entire time.
Why didn't you go through officers training?
I don't know. I don't know. I had already.
You had a degree already, right?
I only had just the year.
Oh, okay.
He only had a year. At 25, I decided to join so that I could get the GI Bill. So
you're competing against 17, 18-year-olds.
I know.
Okay.
So I was there basically in charge, and they were firing the other platoon leaders or platoon guides in the other platoons every 3 days, and I stayed for 13 weeks at platoon guide, became soldier of the cycle.
Wow.
Marched the company through the graduation ceremony, ran to the nearest payphone and told my recruiter that I'm going to go active. Oh, wow. And so I ended up at Fort Ord, did 6 years at Fort Ord, loved it. Yeah, I was a combat engineer, but never really did any combat engineering other than the fact that at one point my company commander, I overheard him saying, we got to do bridge training, which is basically this 80 to 120 ton bridge called the Bailey Bridge that we have to do annually. And he didn't know the first thing about what needed to be done.
What did you get out?
Pardon me?
What did you get out the Army?
They made the mistake of handing me a computer. They handed me a computer and said, "Figure this out," because I was a training NCO then. We needed it to create the training schedule, and it had WordPerfect on there. And I sat down and figured it out. And when it came time to reenlist for the second time, so I got other things I can do. And so I marched over to AT&T in Monterey and
California.
In California, in Monterey, and they.
I got to ask now because I found out there's a Reno in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And there's Clark County.
Oh, in Washington.
Yeah. So you got to ask specifically now because you don't never know.
Oh, I know.
There's Las Vegas and New Mexico.
Look at that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you run it all the time. So
they can't come up with new names.
So I went over to. This was the craziest of coincidences. I went over there and I'm standing in the lobby of AT&T, and I'm looking through the guide and I find the profile of the guy that's going to interview me, and he went to the same high school as my mom did in Southern Indiana.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's crazy. So we're walking back, and I say, "How long's it been since you've been back to Gnawbone?" And he said, "How do you know about Gnawbone?" I told him. And I did the job that day, did a horrible job. He didn't call me back.
Okay.
5 years later, when he was working for me, he said, if it hadn't been for the fact the connection with, the high schools, I would never called you back at that second time. Okay. So I did a better job and was, that's kind of where.
So you're still in IT now?
That's what set my path. I've been doing that for 30 years.
Is that what you're in right now?
Yeah,
IT?
yeah.
Okay.
So that was when the internet was becoming coming on into play, and then I started learning how to connect the pages to databases, and that's what I've been doing solid for 30 years.
So, Mr. Hynes, why are you running for Congressional District 3?
Well,
and the boundaries of the
so Congressional District 3 is now it's in a nutshell, it's everything west of I-15 and then down to Laughlin, from like Lone Mountain down to Laughlin. But there's this little triangle just south of the airport, which is the airport boundary, I-15, and then the city limits of Henderson. So they completely cut out Henderson and Boulder.
So you got a little bit of the airport then?
Yeah, just that little bit of area, just a little bit of area just south of the airport. Okay. And but I'm running because I just feel that there's that we're underrepresented. That
but you're going up against who?
Against Susie Lee,
the incumbent.
The incumbent. Yeah. So, and I did that intentionally. I'm actually a little bit politically right of center. I could have ran as a Republican also, but it was I could tell it was going to be a big field. So I thought, well, if I change my label to Democrat before the end of the year, I'll qualify, and then I'll be head to head with the incumbent. If I can get past the incumbent.
You said changed your label, so you changed your political party just to run for this race?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
what were you before?
Well, honestly, I was a lifetime Republican. My first vote was for Ronald Reagan.
Right.
About this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, I changed from Republican to other because I had this crazy notion that I was going to start my own political party. Okay. By July, I realized that was just a ridiculous thing. So I started the middle party.
Your alter ego is...
Yeah. So in July, I said, well, that's just a ridiculous idea because, parties, they're ingrained. And I know as a 50-year Indiana Pacer fan that we can become loyal without reason. That we can love a sports team beyond reason to the point, they don't make the playoffs, they don't have a winning record, but we still love them. And that's almost the way I feel that the Republican and the Democrat Party are right now. That we love them, but it's out of loyalty, not necessarily because they're doing a great job.
Darcey, you got questions?
When did you decide to run, and what was the stigma for what threw you into the race?
Yeah, I threw out there in a podcast a couple of days ago. I actually had aspirations of running for president when I was in my 20s. And
I thought about that too. Then they said something about you have to be a natural born citizen. Some ridiculous amendment in the Constitution.
Yeah.
So, I was trying to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to change it, but apparently it wasn't working.
Yeah. So then I always had in the back of my mind, what can I do to position myself that so that my freshman year in college, I announced myself as a pre-law. Because I thought the law would be the way to be able to slip in there. And it actually got, as my life went on and things changed. Life happens, exactly. Those aspirations kind of faded. And then, I was always thinking, kind of in the back of my mind, what can I do to not disqualify myself, bankruptcies and, doing bad things or, committing a crime that shows up, just ridiculous things like that. But it's always kind of in the back of my mind. And those completely faded. But I've always wanted to be a change agent. I wanted to be able to do something. So 15 years ago, I actually got nowenoughisenough.com, allupthis.com, thinking, well, I was going to start writing and blogging. And with the pandemic, that gave me some time to finally think that through. And I was actually, my writing was actually kind of a mental health exercise. I was just starting to write, and I was trying to justify to my wife why that I had voted for Donald Trump 3 times. And
how'd you do it 3 times?
Yeah.
Well, we had the caucus and then the 2 general elections. So I started writing, trying to justify why I'm a Republican. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And so 2 or 3 months of research and writing, thinking, how would I distinguish myself between, being a Republican and being the Democrat. And by the time July rolled around and I thought about the middle party, I realized that, that there's really a huge middle. And if there's anything that Donald Trump did, it was recognizing that there's this huge middle that doesn't have a voice. They just don't have a voice, and Donald Trump gave them a voice. I felt that. I went to his rally at Mandalay, or not Mandalay, but at the Venetian, and I felt it. I felt, the connection and all those people that were coming, even though the everybody, the left tries to vilify. I'm looking at all these people that are walking in. They're just normal, everyday people that want a voice. They want to be heard. And so that's what he. But at some point, I just realized that middle is so huge that we need to do something that gives them that voice. And that's why I finally decided to run in November.
So what's your position on gun control?
My position on gun control is that the Constitution is the law of the land. The only point that I'm absolutely, and it's actually the only point in the entire Constitution that I'm willing to give just a little bit on, is that the same rules that apply for commercial sales should apply to private sales too, except if you can show that there's a relationship there. If you're going to give your son a gun or something like that. But other than that, I'm 100% constitutionalist.
So, do you believe in background checks?
Yeah, and the background checks for commercial should also apply for private sales also. So that's the only thing.
So you don't believe in giving weapons to people that have mental health problems,
right? Exactly.
Or people that are felons, or people that have violent tendencies. Exactly. And how else would you know if they have all those if you don't do a what?
Right, a background check.
Yeah. So, because I'm selling you a gun, I don't know you from Adam.
I know. But you're.
And then when they said the Second Amendment should not be infringed upon, I think when they wrote it back then, mental health wasn't an issue. Right. I'm sure felons were, but I'm sure they didn't give a guy just got out of prison a weapon.
Another factor that I'm sure that the founding fathers didn't take into account is that we were going to have a 24-hour-a-day, 365-day digital stream of media coming into our house that would give mentally ill people the ability to become infamous by killing people. By going on a murder spree.
Like the 18-year-old that went in elementary school.
Like him and everybody else that all the way back to Colorado.
As a congressman, and you're pro-Second Amendment, right? Yes. So you're pro-Second Amendment, and the school shooting comes up, and you got parents, and let's say you were a congressman in Texas, let's say, and you got parents calling you about more gun control because they just lost their child. Right. How would you handle that? How would you do it?
I'm a strict problem solver. You have to identify the problem first, and the problem for that person going in and killing people was not that we had access to guns. And there's you have to distinguish between the different sectors. You got people that use guns for crime. You got people that do these heinous acts, and I can connect that directly to their need for taking their marginal life and turning it into infamy. Mm-hmm. And then you got
if you don't live to see it, then it doesn't make a difference.
It's a suicidal thing. I mean, most of these people aren't intending to go back home. They're not. It's a suicidal thing, and the media has they determined that the responsible path for dealing with suicide, especially teen suicide, is not to publicize it. They've done that a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is. This is copycat. This is suicidal. Mm-hmm. And the media needs to take they need to be responsible. They don't need to take responsibility, but we have this, the Americans have this infatuation with learning more about what happened. Mm-hmm. I know I had that same, kind of feeling. I want to know what happened, but I don't want to give that person, all these people that are doing this, the time of day. I don't want to give them what they wanted, which was, the notoriety and the infamy.
Yeah.
So Darcey, you could jump in anytime. Go ahead, sorry. You jumping in?
I'm jumping in.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, so then you touch on media there. So then people will be like, well, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and the media, they hear about this, they want to share about this. So to say not to share it, how do you balance the?
Yeah, I'm not saying create a law that infringes on First Amendment rights. I'm saying you made the choice to be responsible when you realized that publicizing teen suicide caused more teen suicides. Do it now. Be responsible.
I think gun control and gun safety should start at home, because if I put my weapon on the counter and I have a 13-year-old, she doesn't mess with it.
Right.
She sees it.
Right.
She doesn't mess with it at all.
Right.
But when we go to the range, she shoots.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the first thing is teaching kids the safety of a weapon and what it's used for. And my philosophy in the Marine Corps, they say if you're gonna take a weapon out, you better use it and shoot to kill.
Right.
So if you have no intention to shoot to kill, don't take the weapon out. Don't brandish it.
Exactly.
Don't make threatening statements with it.
Exactly.
Just leave it where it is, holstered.
It's a murder weapon.
Right.
So if you're gonna pull it out, it's to protect yourself.
And every time these incidents happen, especially with schools, you have the bureaucrats that are trying to change the laws on guns and restrict. And I think we have a lot of laws on the books about guns. I think that it's enforcing the laws that we have on the books, and having a better mental health program in this country. Yeah. That's what I think it should boil down to.
Help, consolidating the health services across this country right now to better address mental health and drug addiction, and to be able to provide better care for the people that actually earned it. The seniors that are there on Social Security. No senior on Social Security should have to pay a dime of their Social Security check for health services, but they do, and it actually ends up being that not only does the senior, pay for that, but then when it gets into tough situation, their family are paying also.
Well, it's the same with vets, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you.
With veterans, if you're not 100% service connected, disabled, you have to pay for dental. And dental affects your your medical, because if you have bacteria that goes to the brain in your mouth, then you're dead. So stuff like that.
Yeah. I think all those. Generally there's roughly about 11 or 12 major services that are funded by tax dollars that provide health services. Why do we have that many? And they're not connected. They're not working together with each other. And basically, the state, municipal, and federal dollars, we're spending $2 trillion. You give me $2 trillion, I can cover half the people, and they would have 100% care. Because basically, when it boils down to it, give me $12,000, I'll cover myself.
Do you think all the monies that they're sending to Ukraine, they should focus on America?
There's such big pushback on that, and it's just it's ridiculous that we're sending any money.
What is so funny, Mr. Hynes, is that when every time there's a domestic issue here in our country, everybody talks about where is the funding coming from, but every time there is a foreign discretion within our global, we have money to send to all these foreign countries to take care of everything, but we have a problem finding the funding to take care of stuff at home. I found it very hypocritical and unfortunate.
I was having that conversation yesterday. I started this conversation on Twitter yesterday about how we're going to get water here. The Colorado River's become unreliable. How are we going to get water here? Well, they've been bouncing around for decades, the proposition of piping water in, importing it in. Even the Bureau of Reclamations has studied it. They put a summary out of all the different ways to get water, import water into the Colorado River Basin about 10 years ago, and their conclusion was that it would take about 5 years to study it, in about 5 years to construct it, but another 20 years in litigation to actually get it to come through. 30 years, we don't have that kind of. So the conversation led back.
That kind of time.
No, we don't. And we don't have that kind of time. We don't even have. We really don't even have 10 years.
30 years.
Yeah, we don't have. We really don't even have 5-10 years. What's going to happen? When if we continue to hope that the Colorado River becomes reliable. But the same conversation came up. Like there was at least 3 comments: was we can send $40 billion to Ukraine. We can spend money to put a pipeline in, and the gist of it is there's 218,000 miles of gas pipeline right now. It's already a stable industry. Pipe water here. We don't have I say that we don't have a water shortage problem in the United States. We have a water transportation problem. There's water enough to around the country. We just need to figure out how to get it here.
We know there's an issue with the water, and it's been a discussion for quite some time, and it's accelerating as a need.
Yeah.
People are aware there's a problem. How are you going to make things happen now as opposed to 30 years from now?
Exactly. Well, it's more urgent now. People see it. It's in their face. They go down to Lake Mead. I went down to Lake Mead yesterday, and I was standing right where the marina was. And it was a long ways to the water edge. And the marina barely fits in that basin now. It's incredible. And we were looking out over this mountain that we used to jet ski around. The little top, this little tiny, and it's all the way down. You can see it. It's in your face. So what are we going to do? The solution to more water is more water. We have to address it now. It's not going to be an instant fix.
Do you think we could make drinking water by using the water from the ocean? And
that's one of the solutions. They're studying desalination. The big problem with that is it uses so much energy. And I heard somebody say, somebody mentioned in that conversation that we could use, the heat from the Mojave Desert to accelerate that. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I know they're trying to do it. And I know they've talked about things like, like maybe run the pipeline down the coast from the areas up in the northwest that have abundant water. But I don't know. I say all of the above.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people say, well, can you truck it in? Can you train it in? High-speed train. I just think, having 3 72-inch water pipes that are constantly on.
Are you the only one in this race taking on CZ Lee, by the way?
Yes.
Okay.
In the Democratic primary. We're running head-to-head.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you doing in that race?
Well, I feel pretty good about it. At first it was, people coming up to me and say, why are you running against Susie Lee? She's so nice. And I didn't have anything to say at the time.
Because she's nice.
Yeah, she's so nice. And even my wife said something like that. But but the more things went on and on, I'd get people walking up to me and talking on my shoulder. Yeah, we think you're doing the right thing.
So speaking of that, what do you think about the vaccine mandates and the lockdowns? What was your take on that? And do you think there's a new pandemic is going to hit us within a few years?
Yeah. Who can possibly, predict that it would even.
Trump starts to run again, all of a sudden now we got another epidemic on the way.
Well,
we don't call it the Trumpster.
Oh yeah,
the Trumpster flu.
Who could have predicted it would happen in the first place, let alone predict what it was?
But
we should be able to handle it better this time. But the point is that Congress is so unresponsive. All they could really do was just throw money at the problem. They couldn't do anything else. And you have to wonder, what could we really have done? I don't know. I mean, every other country was trying something. I don't know if there was a lot of success anywhere else, except for there was an area in India that seemed to have a lot of success keeping it out. But,
so as a congressman, would you file any type of investigation on China to find out if they're the cause of the epidemic? And if so, if you as a congressman, if you did find out that China was responsible, what would you do about it?
Well, I think it's clear that it came out of that lab. I mean, you can't.
What makes you say that?
You can't say that where the place where they were studying it and the place where it presumably started wasn't. That there wasn't some connection there.
Right.
So it just seems to make sense. I think there was a huge connection with all the investors from the United States that were interested in seeing what they could do about accelerating the how contagious that could be, and I think that's what's blocking things right now. And you wonder how much China knows about that happening, and how much they're keeping under wraps to protect themselves, protect the United States,
or if they're would you tell China to forgive all American debt?
Yeah, that's. I don't see how that could occur, but yeah, and the debt the debt we owe in terms of the national debt, it's not as big as what everybody thinks it is, but there's a significant amount of debt there, and it's. I don't know.
I wish I had 5% of that in my bank.
I know. I don't know what we would do there, and honestly, I'm trying to get to the point where we stop doing what I've been calling governing by revenge, and it's being more tolerant in order to bring people together and fix the problems that we have, and then just move forward. There's so much politics going on right now in Washington. I just want us to take a step back. If we govern by revenge, who would be our enemies now? Great Britain, Germany, Japan. Those are our greatest allies now. So we just need to figure out some way to add tolerance to the mix. Figure out the problem at the border, fix the border. Mm-hmm. I'm totally for not a wall just as a statement, but a wall where it helps the Border Patrol, control the flow of people walking in.
It's extremely hypocritical. All these folks that are against walls, they got walls around their home. Mm-hmm. All these folks that are against guns, they got armed security.
Have their own security guard.
Matter of fact, it took an armed police to take down that 18-year-old that was shooting up the school. So it was bullet for bullet, right? Yeah. So if it works one way, it could work the other way. Yeah. And the way that we would like for it to work is protection of our citizens and our family, not to go out and do these heinous crimes. But if you have somebody that's doing these heinous crimes, average citizen need to be able to protect themselves and to stop the threat, right?
So regarding security, Homeland Security for even locally, police, funding the police, defunding the police, your stance on
I think we need to do everything we can to unite and keep ourselves safe. That's the bottom line. That's my standard. And having a border where people could just walk in and out is not keeping us safe. 23 million people living here anonymously is not keeping us safe. We can't put the ball on buses and send them back to where they came from. And that's the natural reaction that you want to say.
Especially with these gas prices.
Exactly. No, exactly. I agree. I agree 100%. So we need to figure a way to just bring things down and welcome the people who are here, get them out of the shadows, figure out something that way we can move forward. They start paying taxes, the way they're supposed to,
right.
And just move on. Just get politics behind us. There's so many things that are low hanging fruit that it was either caused by Congress, ignored by Congress, that we just need to get behind us so that we can move on.
Do you believe that we have an election problem at the ballot? Do you believe that the election was stolen in this last election cycle?
I'll tell you one thing that I saw, and I mentioned this in the interview, in the endorsement interview. I read a poll where 25% of Democrats in this poll thought that there was enough of a doubt that things weren't legitimate, that it should be studied, and it might reverse the election. So that spoke volumes to me, and I was very interested in what was going on in Arizona. But that's such a rabbit hole, and for me to continue to maintain my position of tolerance and getting politics behind us and uniting us to keep us safe. I don't want to chase that down.
Taxes. Raise, lower? What are the priority within them?
We double our income every 10 years, every census year, no matter what, except for 2010, since 1930. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You know, you could maintain them the same, and you're going to have the same result. We're going to double our income, and Congress is going to piss it away. No matter how much it is, it's going to go into this dark hole where it just gets consumed.
So you're running for Congress. You said Congress is just going to piss it away.
Yeah.
So, and you're running for Congress. Yeah. What can you do? What is your business background?
Yeah.
Any business background that you have for helping, in that budget situation that it doesn't get pissed away?
I don't have a finance background. Okay. I would embrace some of the candidates that have finance background. One of the candidates that I really like is Colonel Robertson over in District 1. He's got a finance background. Those are the kinds of people that can go fix that. I'm a support guy. I'm a logistics guy. I can get people together. I can move things forward. I can organize, veterans to get more moderates together.
That was my major MOS too when I was in logistics and embarkation.
Yeah. That's my wheelhouse right there. And I realized that's why I like the Army so much. Is because I realized during the 5 years before I went into the Army, I was very involved in organizing events and getting things together and making sure transportation was there. And that's when I fell into the training NCO position. It's the exact same thing. Week 8 to 0, you're planning, you're making sure that you got all the training materials and the transportation things down, and you got enough explosives for the next training for the next explosives round when you go down to the range. Just things like that. I could get those people together. Uh-huh. And we can put our heads together and fix the budget.
He's a unifier.
Yeah, unifier. So to unify the country, alleviate the division.
At least unify those 535 people that are sitting there, that have all the decisions, or how that $4 trillion is going to get used. That's where we're at now. We're at $4 trillion. If we can't make it work with $4 trillion, there's a big problem. Yeah. I mean, you could. I think the number is what was I figured it out once. You could divide that up. Give each one of the legislators $7.5 billion, and say, here, have a project and make it work. Some of them, like I would go to other legislators and say, can we put our $7.5 billion together and figure something out? But you should be able to fix those things. It's just ridiculous the way things are going, and I'm pissed off.
Do you have you're a unifier. It sounds like you listen to all the views and help bring them together. Yeah. What particular views what is most important to you? What is the most important thing you would like to accomplish in your role as congressman?
Yeah, the top three things is getting a long-term energy plan that doesn't vilify gas and oil, that stops burning coal. I don't think burning coal is. We've been. Basically, every breath that any of us has taken over our lifetime, there's been some particulates from coal burning in it. Depending on what website you look at, anywhere from 800,000 to 3 million people are dying every year because they're burning coal in the region where they live. So use natural gas to transition to nuclear, and there's other forms of nuclear power now that they're developing with thorium. It's another radioactive material that they want to use instead of uranium, which is not, you can't weaponize it, and it actually consumes itself. You can recycle it, and it consumes itself and has very little waste afterwards. So yeah, that long-term energy plan is what I think that will actually be the core of moving forward. It's going to create thousands of jobs. It's going to solve our CO2 output in that sector, because nuclear doesn't create any carbon dioxide gases. So the next thing is fixing the border. That's low-hanging fruit. We both want something on each side, and both sides want something on both sides. Mm-hmm. Let's normalize the people, the huge populations living here, and fix the border, and then consolidating all the healthcare services. That's a big deal. And once we realize that we can do all that, we know that we've got the money to be able to do it. I want to make an investment back in the students. I want to eliminate the Department of Education. That's, as far as I'm concerned, is a useless operation right there.
How you plan on doing that?
I don't know. It's been suggested over and over again, but I want to offer a different solution, which I call transitional training. It's all the different training that we have available to us that we don't have available to us because it's under resourced. Military to civilian transitional training. Kids getting out of high school and moving on as adults. Young parents. Somebody getting out of prison. And I actually just went to the Hope for Prisoner mentor program. That is so under resourced, and they need men. They need men to go into that program here in Las Vegas. But all those things, that's an alternative to, and if we can fund that at a rate of about $600 per student per month over their 12 years, they would basically have an $86,000 trust that they could if they followed the rules, they could go to college, they could go to trade school, they could join with their buddies and create a business. All kinds of things that they could figure out. And the crypto community has said, why don't you, instead of putting in a trust, that's a $500 million, that's a $500 billion investment into crypto every year. That's going to really boom that market. And I'm big on crypto.
Mr. Hynes, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
I wanted you to look in the camera and tell folks why they should go to the voting booth and vote for you and your point of contact.
Well, folks, I just feel like that I'm the only candidate that's going to represent the 3rd District in its entirety. Right now, Congress people go, not just Susie Lee, but every congressperson goes, and they go there and they surrender the power that we as voters give them in order to appease the party. And I think that if we can find all this common ground that we all know that we share, all the American values that we know that we could share. You go to a Raiders game or a Golden Knights game, and you look there, and we're not Republicans and Democrats when we're in that room. We're Americans. We all have the same common American values. In that case, it's for our team to win. But what we need to do is unify, get all this low-hanging fruit behind us that I've just described, and just get on with our lives. Take care of ourselves, take care of our family, contribute to the community, and make our lives better. And things that I've described are going to be the only way that we can do it. It's obviously not working. Congress is not working for us, and we all agree on that. Only 20%, and I don't know who those people are, say that Congress is working, but it's not. So we need to be able to represent that silent majority.
Well, Mr. Hynes, thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Hall, thank you for being our special co-host. Folks, that's Randell Hynes. He is the Democratic challenger for the 3rd Congressional District. For full disclosure, Veterans of Politics has endorsed Noah Malgeri, but Noah Malgeri is running on the Republican ticket, and Mr. Hynes is running on the Democratic ticket. And we would love to see the two veterans go up against each other in the general election. I think that would be a marvelous sparring match between the two. And I would like to see that. And if you'd like to see that, then vote for Mr. Hynes for the 3rd Congressional District candidate to face Noah Malgeri, hopefully, in the general election. This is Steve Sanson and Darcey Hall with Veterans of Politics. Until next time.